Hello everyone, Killer Shrew fan here, and I hope you're all doing well. Now, as promised, it is time for me to take a look at the new for 2019 Destroy and Devour Indominus Rex by Mattel. We did a whole unboxing video when we got this thing, and then we decided to hold off on reviewing it because we needed to get to some of our other figures to do proper comparisons and all that stuff. But the time has come to let this asset out of containment and do a review. I won't be taking a closer look at the packaging in this video. We did that during our unboxing because we have a lot of ground to cover with this awesome figure. So we're just going to jump right into the actual unboxing and then get into the figure itself. So without further ado, let's do this! I have been waiting for this moment for so long. Alright, so we're going to do a quick unboxing here. There we go, that's open. Is she sealed in down there? She is, okay. There is a way to get to them from down here, but I don't think I will do that. I think instead, just run this along. I just don't want to tear up the box, you know. I want to do this as low impact as possible on the packaging because I gotta be honest, I'm sure this thing looks great out of the box, but it just looks so awesome in the box as well. So I won't be able to fully replace it in the packaging, but I'll be able to somewhat replace it in the packaging. So yeah, I'm trying to keep it as preserved as possible. It's just the collector in me. There we go. But then there's also the kid in me that likes to take these things out of the box and play with them like no one's watching, so you can see where the issue is. So yes, I can't do that over, but I can screw her back in still. And then back in here we've also got her card, I believe, if I can get to it. So, she is free. There she is, out of the light. She's so big. I'm going to set her aside for a second. Get us that Dino Rivals collector card in the back here. Slides right out. We've also got some instructions. I assume it's all pretty straightforward, but just in case you do have the instructions. How to activate it, play with it. Let's see, if you press the back button to roar, press the front button for slashes, press the back button 3 times for light and sounds, lift up the tail to pose in attack position, press and hold button to open mouth and release to bite smaller dinosaurs. For best performance, lift the larger dinosaur off the surface and bite the smaller dinosaur from a tilted angle. Push down on tail to pose in devour position. Alright, so a lot of fun, and then of course the battery stuff, yada yada yada. And then we've got the Dino Rivals Indominus Rex card. I gotta say, I love the artwork on this thing. She looks absolutely fantastic. It's got this very retro look to it as well. Then you've got all of her stats. She's very strong, coming in with a powerful 10, very fast with 8, very smart with 10, and very aggressive with 10. Making her overall stats a solid 38. We'll get a better image of that to put up as a still for you so you can get a closer look at it. But that is all for the packaging. I'm going to set this aside because, like I said, I like to preserve it as best as I can. Now, for what you actually came here for. There she is, the Indominus Rex, an asset out of containment, and wow! This is awesome. She feels so good in the hand. She is massive. Oh my gosh, look at this. I cannot wait to give you guys a closer look, so we're going to jump right in, starting off at the head as we always do. So starting off at the head of this Indominus, just look at that. Look at all of the detail that Mattel have crammed into this
head sculpt. You've got scales of varying shapes and sizes, individually sculpted teeth that are also individually shaped and have a lot pointier tips than most of the other Mattel dinosaurs. The iconic horns of the Indominus Rex have been captured here perfectly, like to a T. And then you've got lovely areas of musculature in the lower jaw. The fenestral areas are all very well touched upon here. I mean, it's shrink wrap, but that's Jurassic World, so that you can't really get on Mattel for that. And again, I mean, just the sheer amount of everything that is on this head is absolutely gorgeous. I also love at the neck there, the sort of ridge scaling you got going on, the quills, the infamous quills, the sort of scoots, the folds of skin down around the gullet, and then the eye wrinkles are so well crafted. The one thing that I do not like about this head is the fact that the pupil is kind of the same color as the gray surrounding the eye. I mean, you can see it here, but from a distance it just kind of gets lost. It suffers from the same issue that the Protoceratops Attack Pack had, in that the coloration of the pupil does not stand out enough to have that sort of sharp contrast with the rest of the eye, and as a result, it loses a lot of life and character. But beyond that, this head is so well done and perfectly captures the likeness of everyone's favorite genetic hybrid monster from Jurassic World. If we move down the length of the body, again, the amount of detailing covering this surface area is absolutely insane. We already touched upon the beautiful neck region. As you can see, the midsection is no pushover either. I mean, again, you have that lovely plate scaling, lovely spikes, lovely scoops, lovely scaling, wrinkles, folds of skin, the works. It has all been put on this model, and with such careful craftsmanship that, honestly, if this wasn't an action figure, if it didn't have, the articulation points, the seams, the speaker, any of that, if it was just a statue, this would be so incredibly well sculpted, because it is statuesque in its nature. I mean, even from a distance, look at that. You can see all of the detail perfectly, and as you can see, her massive size is pushing the boundaries of my review space. Taking a look at the feet and the legs, you've got some lovely musculature in the legs there. The thighs and calves look particularly powerful, with lovely wrinkles and folds of skin at the joints, as you can see. The ankle has some lovely stretching tendons, and then we come down to the feet, and oh my gosh, these feet are just insane. The toe claws are painted with a slight gray color and a shellac coating to give them a bit of a sheen. But if we move in on that foot and give you guys just like a full out look at that, look at those feet. They look like they came off a freaking emu or something. They look so well sculpted. The plate scaling, the folds of skin, all of it just feels so incredibly naturalistic and lifelike. Like, honestly, with a better paint job, I would feel like this is like an emu statue. That's how impressive this sculpture is right now. It's blowing my mind. If we take a look at the calves and thighs on this side too, again, lovely musculature. I'm particularly fond of the treatment with the wrinkling around the knee, the joints region. I mean, it's just all so beautifully addressed. The hands on this Indominus Rex, I love how spindly and long and sharp the nails look. You've got lovely plate scaling on the back of the fingers. There's lovely musculature in the tricep and bicep region on both of the arms. And then, of course, the famous quills are sculpted against the arm, as you can see. Unfortunately, the hand claws are not painted. Again, that's just something that Mattel doesn't do. But they did it on their Spinosaurus, and I kind of wish that on a $40 action figure, the more expensive than the Spinosaurus, they had. If we take a look at the underbelly, as you can see, there's lovely musculature down here along with wrinkles and folds of skin. The back right foot features the Jurassic World coat of arms, and then the back left foot, everyone's favorite part, the QR code. So if you want to scan this Indominus into your phone, now is your chance to do so. Real quick, I want to take a quick look at the dorsal region and kind of show you all the plate scaling, the scoots, the ridges, all that, because it's just so gorgeous to me. Okay, moving on. Like I said, real quick. Anywho, for the posing, it's pretty standard for Mattel, a very neutral pose with the legs slightly bent, the left leg forward, the right leg back, the arms held up and at the ready, the head looking straight forward, and the tail flicking back off to the right of the model. And yeah, very simple posing. It stands pitch perfectly on my review space, and with those big feet, heck, I guess it better. But yeah, very good with the posing on this model. Another great aspect about this thing is the paint job. Now, with an albino creature like the Indominus Rex, it would be so simple to just paint it, cast it in gray, do a couple of quick washes and pass it off. But Mattel have actually gone and done a lot of subtle coloration on this thing. I mean, obviously it's very noticeable on the dorsal region around the fenestral areas, the dark gray, but there's some lovely gradation going on from the darker colors to the mid-tones to the light base plastic. It's all so gorgeous, and there's never a moment where my eye feels interrupted. I can look over this thing and I don't feel like there's any garish paintwork going on. And Mattel chose their battles wisely because those gray paints do a great job of highlighting the detail on the dorsal region and the fenestral areas as well. As far as posability on this thing goes, it's kind of standard for Mattel. The legs can move forward and backwards. The left leg kind of controls both of them. That's part of the gimmick. As you can see, you can pose it in this rearing option. The right leg can move independently of the left leg forward and backwards, but the left leg does control them both, and that's all part of this sort of lean down to chomp up the prey items sort of gimmick, I guess. But yeah, so standard posability there. The elbows, you can pose those as well. They have that sort of ball and sock. And the shoulders can go forward and backwards as well, so you get some variation with the claws. Okay, now is the time for everyone's favorite parts, and that is, of course, the gimmicks behind this Indominus Rex, the thing that makes this a toy, an action figure. How did Mattel do with that? Well, the first one is kind of underwhelming. It's a sort of slashing grab action. You activate it by pushing a button at the base of the neck here, and it goes... So it's kind of a grabbing motion, and unfortunately for me, it hasn't really worked all that well. It doesn't come close enough to really catch a figure itself. It just works so much easier if you just, say, take your mercenary figure and put it in her hand. And even then, it doesn't really stay all that well. You kind of have to hook it in there, and then she'll still kind of drop it. So I'm not a huge fan of the whole grabbing thing. They did the same thing with the Grab and Growl Indoraptor. I much prefer a up and down sort of slashing, and I kind of wish we had gotten something like that instead of the hands clapping thing. Like if you're happy and clap your hands. If you're gonna destroy Jurassic World, clap your hands. If you want to eat a mercenary and you're really hungry, if you're gonna destroy Jurassic World, clap your hands. That was the stupidest thing I've ever done on this channel. Alright, anywho, for the next gimmick, we have got a massive roar here, and this one's much more fun for me. This one is activated by a button at the base of her tail, and if you push that, you get this massive open mouth roar, which perfectly captures just how wide the Indominus could open her freakishly big mouth in the film. And then you've got unique sounds. Pressing it 3 times activates that sort of laser light show that you saw in the back of her throat there, and that is meant to silhouette whatever poor unfortunate action figure you have fed to her at the time. Doesn't really work that well in broad daylight, but in a darker environment, unlike our review area here, it does work pretty well. I can attest to that. But obviously the most fun gimmick of this entire figure is its eating abilities, and that is a matter of taking her by her back left leg there, as you can see, and then leaning her down, chomping down on the figure, throwing the head back, and taking it down the gullet, and it totally disappears. There's no indication of it anywhere. It fits so perfectly well. And then also, if you put her forward, her mouth, the springs in there are strong enough that she will not drop it back out unless you open the mouth. And that's another thing. At the back of her throat is a very sensitive push button, so that any time the figure inside her gullet happens to knock against it,
you get another unique sound, and it triggers the lights in her throat. Yet again. Now, unlike the famous Bull T-Rex of the Lost World, or even the Super Colossal T-Rex of Mattel days, you cannot retrieve the figure from a slit in the belly here. I assume it's because all the electronics and wiring and all that stuff is housed in the midsection. So if you want to get your figure back, all you have to do is lean her back down, and she throws it back up. I mean, it's probably not as appealing as just getting it out of the belly, but it does still have an amusing factor to it. So yes, absolutely awesome gimmicks on this figure. I'm not a huge fan of the slashing, grabbing action, as I previously mentioned, but the whole eating mechanism, I think that's probably one of the most fun gimmicks that Mattel have given us thus far. One quick area of concern, though, is that the gimmicks really don't work for much else aside from these little human figures. I tried it with every attack pack that I had, every smaller dinosaur, and ultimately the attack packs in and of themselves are just too big to fit in her mouth. The humans are really the only thing you can do this with, and possibly the minis, so that's a bit disappointing that you can't really eat the other dinosaurs, but you know, like I said, it's fun, and you know, kids can have a blast recreating the scene where the mercenaries go out to hunt the Indominus and get their butts handed to them. I just love that.
Now, while we're on the subject of qualms, I do want to talk about a few quick things with this figure. They're very mild and borderline nitpicky, but they are stuff I want to bring up. First of all, the plastic on the neck has not been painted at all. It is just the base plastic. I wish they had introduced some of the gray to it so it wasn't just such a stark contrast to the rest of the body. I get that it's probably so you can better see the red lights and everything, but still, wish there was a little bit of paint on that area. Next up, the wrists. We already touched upon the unpainted hand claws, so I won't go back to that, but I do wish there was a point of articulation in the wrists like they had done with the Indoraptor. It's essentially the same function as the grab and growl, but for whatever reason they chose to keep the wrists in a fixed position. I just think it would have been a nice area of extra articulation and would have allowed you to pose it in that quadrupedal pose as well, the one that the Indominus looks so good in. And finally, another issue that I have is the proportions. It's nothing egregious, and Mattel often has imperfect proportions on most of their models. And this Indominus Rex, I mean, it's pretty spot on, but it's just the tail. The tail is my biggest issue. The feet are a little bit big. They're a little bit big. I forgive that for balancing, but the tail, it's just very stubby, and it kind of shortchanges the size of this thing. Like, if they had given us a properly proportioned tail, I think this thing would have sized up so much better against some of our large theropods that we're going to be comparing it to. If I cover up the tail, everything else just looks so perfect. The second I introduce the tail again to my eye, it takes away from it. It doesn't kill it, but it is crippling. Speaking of size comparisons, we're going to go ahead and get started on that. We have a lot, but first and foremost, we have to bring in the Thrash and Throw Tyrannosaurus Rex because we're told this is the most in-scale dinosaur with the 3 3/4 inch line for the Tyrannosaurus Rex here. And as you can see, the Indominus rightly has the edge in terms of the height, but the Thrash and Throw is similar in length, which, you know, if the Indominus had a proper tail, wouldn't be the case. But if you take the tails out of it and stand them facing each other just like this, this feels perfect. This feels near perfect with them sizing each other up. The Indominus Rex is bigger and bulkier, but the T-Rex is no pushover here. She is able to stand up to this genetic monster, and they look so play compatible and awesome next to each other. And if you're gonna get one, you basically have to get the other, and I think kids would absolutely love this pairing. This is awesome stuff. Next up, we're going to go ahead and bring in the Real Feel Mosasaurus. Unfortunately, this is a pair-up that does not work as well. The Mosasaurus is just too small, and that's been kind of a common issue throughout the toy line. The submarine that we get is too big for this Mosasaurus, and this Indominus Rex, another iconic thing that's supposed to fit in the mouth of this Mosasaurus, it doesn't work. The Indominus is just too big. I don't feel when I see these two together that the Indominus could leap out of the water and take this thing down to the depths. The Indominus Rex just looks too big. Again, Mosasaurus has it in terms of the length, but in terms of the height, they're about the same, and the bulk, very similar. So yeah, it just doesn't feel like the Mosasaurus could be a successful predator to this Destroy and Devour Indominus Rex, and that's unfortunate, but you know, I mean, it's the price we pay for two great figures. They can't be perfect. Next up, we brought in the previously reigning king of largest theropod dinosaur from Mattel, the Extreme Chompin' Spinosaurus, and as you can see, the Mattel Destroy-Devour Indominus Rex is still taller. The Spinosaurus does reach her level with his sail there if we stand them both parallel, but ultimately, the Indominus Rex does stand taller. She has more bulk to her. She's just a larger figure in general, and to anyone who is lucky enough to own the Extreme Chompin' Legacy Collection Spinosaurus, you know that's a big figure. So this Indominus Rex is a big offering from Mattel. Next up, we have got the Mosasaurus pack Quest for Indominus Rex skeleton exclusive, and as you can see, Mattel just really did a good job of making these things look compatible. I mean, if Mattel had given us an Indominus Rex skeleton and then an Indominus Rex toy, and they didn't look like they came from each other, I would have thought, yeah, okay, I mean, I guess they don't have a lot of reference for this skeleton, but the fact that they managed to capture the likeness so well for the skeleton and then duplicate it and make it look like it actually could come from this Destroy and Devour is so impressive to me. And next up, we are going to go ahead and bring in the other genetic abomination, the Indoraptor, another comparison that does unfortunately not work. The Indoraptor is just too big. I know it's supposed to be bigger than your average Velociraptor, but here the fact that it comes up to almost the chest of the Indominus when crouched is kind of a problem for me. This thing is supposed to be able to run through hallways and doors and mansions, but if I rear him up to his full size, he comes up and he can look the Indominus in the eye, and that really does not feel right if we're talking about all these things being in scale with one another. This Indoraptor and Indominus Rex do not work together. Next up, we are going to go ahead and bring in our still favorite, I know, I'm a sentimental old fool, dinosaur from Mattel, the Action Attack Carnotaurus. This one feels a little bit better because the Carnotaurus is larger than the Indoraptor, but even so, it's still maybe a bit too big, and that's something we brought up when we compared the Carno to the Thrash and Throw. Nothing horrid, but just sort of there, like maybe a little bit smaller and it would have been perfect, but I do still think they're play compatible. Next up, we have got the Raptor Squad and the Indominus Rex. I think this is a near perfect size up, and the fact that I can recreate this scene so well with toys is incredible, not to mention the fight scene at the end with the raptors leaping all over the Indominus Rex. I mean, the fact that Mattel has made these toys that collectors can not only buy and use for dioramas and to recreate their favorite scenes is fantastic. But then you think about the kids who watch these movies and want to continue the action. They can now because Mattel has given them the tools to do so, and they can create all sorts of memories and have fun with this franchise in a new way. And Mattel, it's all thanks to them. And I know you kind of already saw a 3 3/4 inch human next to the Indominus Rex, but we had to go ahead and bring in our good friend Chris Pratt for a size comparison, and I think this is actually quite good. And for our final size comparison, I did it. I had to. I brought in the Hasbro Indominus Rex. I thought it would be funny. Honestly, it's just making me kind of sad. And, you know, I mean, when Hasbro did the Jurassic World toy line, everyone hated it, everyone dumped all over it, but the diamond in the rough was this Indominus Rex. People consistently went back to that one as saying, this is what Hasbro can do. But even then, it's destroyed by this Mattel Indominus Rex. I mean, look at this. On the left, you have a beautifully crafted, detail-heavy sculpture that perfectly captures the likeness of the dinosaur from the film. On the right, you have a cartoony, goofy toy that somewhat captures the look of the dinosaur if the dinosaur was, you know, in a DreamWorks animated feature and not a live-action dinosaur film. And then there's just the question of the make. I mean, just look, the screw holes. You see the screw holes here. No screw holes on the Mattel Indominus Rex. It's no contest. Even Hasbro's best is toppled by Mattel's offerings, and that is incredible. Now, one thing that I actually think swings in Hasbro's favor kinda was a surprise to me. I think the sound effects that are used here actually sound better
coming out of the Hasbro offering here. Now, hear me out. I know it's tantamount blasphemy to even suggest that anything about this Mattel Indominus Rex is inferior to the original Hasbro offering, but it's just something I noticed when I was comparing the two. I mean, let me give you an example here. Now that sounds pretty good, don't get me wrong, but when I compare it to the Hasbro one here, it just sounds so much fuller, so much more powerful. I don't know what it is. I also like that they included the choo-choo sound there. Shut up, I'm talking. That they included the choo-choo roar, the sort of chuffing sounds with the Hasbro offering, but it just, for this one, it sounds more full. This one kind of has a hollow sound. Now, that's not saying that the sound effects aren't good or weak, but just next to each other, this roar, if I can get an actual roar, sounds stronger than this roar. And you might not be able to pick it up on camera, and this one is closer to my microphone right now, so that might be swaying your opinions, but trust me, if you have them both in person, you'll understand what I mean. That is it. That is the only way that the Hasbro Indominus Rex even comes close to outdoing this beautiful Mattel offering that we have before us today.
Well, everyone, that is going to do it for our look at the Destroy and Devour Indominus Rex. Overall, I do think this is one of, if not the best theropod offerings from Mattel for the Jurassic World toy line. It perfectly captures the image of the dinosaur that we all know and love, with fun gimmicks and beautiful sculptural details and paint. It's perfect on every sense of the world. It outdoes the Hasbro Indominus Rex at every turn except for the sounds, I would say. And yeah, it's a must-have for any Jurassic World fan out there. Now for a big question, is it worth taking out of the box? Honestly, the box gives it more presence on your shelf. But if you want to fully appreciate all of the gimmicks, it does need to be taken out. And heck, you know, after taking the one out, go and get yourself another. It's that good. As always, I want to know what you guys think of this model. Do you plan on picking it up? What's your favorite offering from Mattel so far? Leave all your comments down below. I love reading through your thoughts. And as always, if you enjoyed our review today, don't be afraid to let us know by hitting that like button. And don't forget to subscribe on the way out, because we will see you in our next video. Bye-bye.